Violet looked through a catalog and found a dress she wanted to order. She used a calculator to determine that the total cost of the dress, tax, and shipping was $129.307. What is the total rounded to the nearest penny? Okay, now this right here sounded weird when I read it, and that's because if you look at this, it looks weird. Money, this is money, money usually does not have 3 places behind the decimal. But when we round this in the problem, that'll take care of that extra spot over here, and then it'll look like normal money, and it'll make more sense when we read it. So we know this is a rounding question, so that means we need to use our rounding steps again. So I'm going to put them on the screen, but you should have it copied on your paper already. But if you don't, pause the video and write them down. Now the question is asking, what is the total rounded? So we need to go back to where they talked about the total. Well, that was up here. It says that the total cost of her dress, tax, and shipping was this amount of money. So this is what we're going to be rounding. So write that down on your paper. So 129 and 307 thousandths. Now let's look for where we're supposed to be rounding to, what our target's going to be. So back here in the question, it said, what is the total rounded to the nearest penny? That means the penny is going to be where we're rounding to, the pennies place.
Wait a second, there's not a pennies place.
Well, actually, there is a pennies place. Let's think about our place value chart. If you recall, the first time we used the place value chart, we said that it takes 100 pennies to make $1. So if it takes 100 of these things, that means they are hundredths. So since we're rounding to the pennies place, we're actually rounding to the hundredths place. So anytime you see round to the pennies place, know that it's the hundredths. Again, because it takes 100 pennies to make $1. And just as a side note, if you ever see round to the nearest dime, well, that would be the tenths place because it takes 10 dimes to make $1. So now we can go ahead and round. We're going to round this number using our steps. So step 1, underline the target place value. Well, our target is the penny, which we said means the hundredths place. So if we think about place value, remember, this is our tenths, next is hundredths. So we're going to underline that 0. Step 2, look to the right and circle it. So I'm going to look to the right of that target and circle it. Step 3, look at the circled number. So I'm looking at the circled number. If it's between 0 and 4, and it's not, so I'm going to skip to this part. If it's between 5 and 9, it is. We need to add 1 to the target. So this time we'll add 1 to the target. And 1 plus 0 gives us 1. We'll write it underneath. Then to finish up here, everything to the left comes straight down. So all of this to the left of the target comes straight down. That means I'm going to bring down the 3, the decimal, 9, 2, and 1. Everything to the right of the target gets left behind. And again, I could bring down a 0 if I wanted to. I would never bring down the actual number, I would never bring down the 7, but I could bring down a 0 to show that nothing is there. But it's not necessary on this problem, so I'm going to remove it. And so this is our answer. And we can put a $sign on it because remember, in the original problem, it was money. And this time when we read it, it'll actually sound like normal money since it only has 2 decimal places. So we were looking for what is the total rounded to the nearest penny? Well, let's put it in a complete sentence. Her total was $129.31 when rounded to the nearest penny.